to the desert outpost. We're craving more. With every sweet stride, we will arrive. We're opening the door. So here's to the grind. We'll tear it down. There's nothing that can ever take down the ground. And we will pop them down and make drum sound. There's something inside we're best for sticking around. Now watch the ice still. We're fighting time. Yeah, we're fighting time. We're fighting time. We're fighting time.
Hello, governors. Welcome to Osiris League Season 9 Group Stage Round 3. I'm your host, Plot Gaming caster and content creator for Rise of Kingdoms, and today we are joined by our fellow caster, Dirty Dan. Glad to be here with you yet again, man.
Absolutely. If it's, anything like the nail biter that we had last week on our cast together, super excited to be back.
It is week 3 of the Osiris League playoffs, where in each realm, the 32 teams that made it through the qualifier stage continue their journey through the playoff group stage. Each of these groups have 4 teams, but only the top 2 teams in each group could make it to the knockout stage. These last games determine who can make it to the knockout stage and who will be sent home. And this game we're casting today will decide exactly that. We're casting Group A in the realm of Horus 2079 from Kingdom 2079 versus WIB from Kingdom 1846. These two teams are tied 1-1 in the group, so whoever wins will be the second seed of Group A, making it to the knockout stage, while the other team will begin their Osiris League off-season. 2079 are a team that has had great success last season, making it to the realm of Anubis quarterfinals. They are looking to continue that momentum from last season to knockout stage berth this season. WIB, on the other hand, has had consistent success as one of the top teams in Osiris League, making it to every knockout stage since Season 5. With a close defeat to 75 DC in their first match, they're able to claw their way back into knockout stage contention with a win in their second game. Both teams are 1-1, making this a win or go home scenario for both teams here, and only one can make it out as the second seed in the group. Both teams have knockout stage expectations, but only one will make it through. Will 2079 be able to make history and deny WIB's chance to a knockout stage berth, or will WIB continue their knockout stage streak? Dirty Dan, what do you think of the matchup?
I think it's going to be a really interesting one here. A team in WIB that's kind of been around for so long, kind of with one of these kind of like, I guess you can call it like a pseudo up and coming team in 2079. I mean, making it to the quarterfinals is definitely no easy task. I think one of the main things that is going to be a narrative of this game, and probably some continuations on this for the team in WIB specifically, is the aspect that Raw Ability has seemingly stepped away from some of these leadership roles and responsibilities, and is one of the core leaders here for the WIB Osiris League team. So it is going to be very interesting to see in this match and going forward, will WIB still be able to kind of maintain that dominance that they've had throughout these seasons without one of their core leaders? So that's going to be something that I'm going to be keying in on for this match, and kind of as we move forward and watching WIB for sure.
WIB, I mean, it's been a couple tough KVKs, but they've always been solid in Osiris League. Will they be able to continue? Did the leadership structure change? We'll never know as people from the outside. I guess we'll get to see in this game. This will be another game to prove themselves. If you guys are familiar with WIB, if you've been keeping up with the streams, the reason why WIB might seem familiar is because the first game we casted on this channel, the first week, was actually 75 DC and WIB. And even though WIB are 1-1, very, very easily could they be 2-0. If they were just able to capture that arc at the end of the game. You guys were not able to watch the 75 DC WIB game, definitely give it a watch when you can. it really came down to the last arc, and they were bringing that arc to the outpost 5 seconds away, and then the game ended. They lost by 2K points. Now trying to make sure that, hey, we belong there just as 75DC belongs there as well. We belong in that knockout stage. We've been there for 4 or 5 seasons in a row. We'll have to see if WIB could continue coming into form after the win against AX in their group. I mean, Dirty Dan, this Osiris League, talking about crazy games, has been absolutely insane with the different skills being used, with the different strategies. Like, what have you seen so far from this Osiris League season, rather, that has been different from what we've been watching in the past?
So just in these first 2 weeks, definitely, I think the main thing that stands out is the aspect of No March and this kind of now really cool way to play the occupation meta. But then even just in your second match last week, streaming with Brian, you kind of got a tale of two takes where that second match, you saw people starting to use skills like Inferno, which is a really good skill that you can use kind of really anywhere. Obviously, you kind of probably want to utilize it for that mid game. But I absolutely love the way that Lilith has found a way to give us some pretty good occupation play style without being too dominant on provisions like we saw in the Grand Prix, where teams are trying to put up like 8,000 points worth of provisions. And that will be something that I am actually keying in on for WIB here, since it does look like they have some kind of provisioning prowess in this match, while 2079 on the other hand doesn't look like they take too much into it. But definitely these skill usages have been really fun to experience, and I'm more excited to see what other cool fun things that these teams can kind of pull out as we continue the this Osiris League run.
Yeah, No March, Time Warp, and we even saw Inferno as these new skills this season as we start to get into the game. We have... There you go. We have... Oh, wait. Is this the right game? Give me a second here. This is the wrong game. How did I get in the wrong game?
Technical difficulties, folks.
Technical difficulties. Now we're in the right game. I'm like, whoa, these seems like different.
It's not as easy as Plato makes it seem, everyone. From someone who's been in that control seat, there is a lot that can go wrong. So the fact that Plato can do this on a week in, week out basis, relatively pretty clean.
There you go. This is the right game here.
And it's early for us too, chat.
2079 and I'm like 16 OT. I mean, these guys this will be a fun game to watch as well, probably. But we got 2079 in the top left corner versus WIB teleporting in the bottom right. Oh man, this is gonna be... I mean, I feel like there's potential in this game to be very competitive, but I also feel like WIB are pretty heavy favorites if you had to pick.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the Osiris League bets, they are 89% favored in the betting category. So, if you were one of those players who wanted to take a swing on a big bet and go for 2079, I mean, the fact that they have 11% chance on those bets is you're going to make some pretty nice cash there. So, I am curious to see it too. Like we've always seen the Korean teams be really dominant as well, kind of in the past. You know, you think of teams like 1365 with JST and some of the teams that have come out of there that were a little bit more Korean heavy focused. So I won't count 2079 out of this too soon, chat. So definitely something to keep an eye on there.
Kingdom of Korea is their alliance name, so definitely a Korean kingdom. As we see the gates open, energetic be used, the double C speedy marches running to the obelisks and the outposts. I will say last match that we casted at 15 USDC, there was some unforced errors with a late obelisk capture. We'll have to see if, you know, but all these teams will be on their A game in the beginning here, because the start really starts off the momentum. If you have a bad start, then it'll be hard to come back from that. We could see some sentries being used, WIB using 2 sentries here on each of these lanes. A little bit forward, but trying to make sure that there isn't an overload in one lane or the other.
Yeah, always a safe play. I think even last week where we saw like some of those. I mean, when it comes down to it, we always talk about how you need all the points that you can. But I mean, even like something like the Shrine of War of getting first occupation can swing the match, as we saw last week. So making sure you come out smooth and knowing where your opponents are going is so vital in getting some of these first occupation points, because they really can swing things at the end of the match.
Yeah, the first occupation points meaning a lot. Even getting the teleports early meaning a lot. You can see the obelisk getting captured pretty much mirrored in terms of time, a little bit faster from 2079. And the second obelisk, the farther obelisks, looks like WIB taking that a little bit faster as well. So all things considered, no real advantage for the obelisks. I will say there has been obelisk flips. I've been seeing obelisk flips where, you know, this is a T1 march inside of this obelisk. If you don't get a real march in there, and then an enemy T1 march, for example, is able to just flip the obelisk, reset the timer, delay your teleports for another minute, it could really spell disaster if you lose your Desert Altar initial approach.
Yeah, we always talk about the small things, right? And that's one of those smaller aspects that can get overlooked. And you know, you don't want to have these errors that you can just cleanly avoid, you know, by just kind of doing the steps that, you know, I mean, this is what, season 9 of Osiris League. Like, a lot of these teams are pretty well adept at knowing the basics now, so got to make sure that you're kind of honed in and you're locking in on some of those things as a player.
You gotta lock in, especially because VODs are so easy to review now. Rise of Kingdoms, you could watch any game, watch any team you want to. We'll have to see if, you know, I definitely feel like the quality of play overall since, you know, I've started casting compared to now has exponentially gotten better, with the practice matches now being available across Kingdom, with VOD reviews being available for any Osiris League game you want to watch. We'll have to see if these two teams are going to be able to take their practice, take their VOD review into a knockout stage of birth. I mean, Dirty Dan, you're talking about 2079 as a dark horse here. Do you predict them to, you know, do something crazy? Do you predict them to perhaps upset WIB in this matchup?
I don't know if we'd see something crazy. I feel like whenever, you know, I'm kind of leaning on 1365 here a little bit, and the experience that I've had watching them. But if it's anything like their approach, I think it's going to be relatively conservative. I don't think we're going to see too aggressive of a play style, and potentially a little bit more focused on the building game. I mean, both of these teams have been utilizing No March and Time Warp in their previous matches, so I think that's definitely something to look out for. And usually even too, like if you look at Grand Prix, like the Chinese servers like playing occupation game a little bit more so. So it seems like more of like kind of like an Asian play style in a way, but we'll have to see. I'm definitely not counting out 2079 because I've definitely been on the winning end of some of the bets on some of these Korean teams in seasons past.
As talking about a reserved play style, both teams just staring at each other as the Desert Altar 30 seconds until it opens. Both teams putting their marches in between the assault. WIB now starting to aggress on this top side Desert Altar. As we see 2079 actually making the call to run back, perhaps seeing that they're outnumbered. Now, what this indicates to me is that they're just trying to get that first tap. They're just trying to get a garrison inside the Desert Altar. They're not really committing that many open field marches towards this Desert Altar, and perhaps hoping that their garrison will be enough to hold it. And where would you put those marches? You would probably put them towards the Sky Altar, but no march initially being used by WIB. Dirty Dan.
They did over-index a little bit on that top side. I'm kind of watching that one play out there. So over-index a little bit more on that top side for a Sky Altar attack. And then no marches being used from just WIB for now. And then there's a dust up in response, potentially. Might be, get that out of it? No, dust up in response.
Dust up in response, yeah. Interesting. So The thing about No March is that it doesn't affect open field at all. No March doesn't, make your marches better against your opponent's marches, but it does give you a really, really, really good attack on your opponent's structures. So now the fact that 2079, they had lost their Desert Altar, they also lost their Sky Altar. This is looking pretty dire in terms of an opening for them. Although I will say WIB did commit more points.
Yeah, definitely a good play there. I'm surprised we didn't see the mirrored No March there to try and, because it does buff up your structure defenses as well. And I mean, if your enemy is looking to take advantage of the points and multiply those up a little bit as well, like it just seems almost in a way that you kind of have to start mirroring No March. Although in the match that we watched last week, they weren't quite mirroring it, and it was kind of paying off. So again, maybe 2079 is going to take more of a mid approach on this, but yeah, it's a tough call here because this is going to start to get out of hand relatively quickly here, especially considering first occupation bonuses as well.
What this indicates to me, the first occupation bonuses on this Desert Altar is going to be absolutely huge. That's going to be 750 points towards WIB, 750 points taken away from 2079. So that's 150, that's 1.5k rather, point differential for one of the altars. The fact that they have both of them means that if 2079 aren't able to retake the Sky Altar and Desert Altar, they're going to be down a full arc just in first occupation. So they are going to have to flip this up. You could see they're starting to swarm down the Sky Altar in the bottom side, but there are just so many red marches here. WIB are so healthy from their initial attack. And this is going to get really, really ugly in terms of occupation, Dirty Dan.
Yeah, 2079 is going to have to stabilize this relatively quickly, and or they have to get to mid relatively soon to get this control. And maybe the timing's a little good here for them too, considering those healthy marches for WIB. So they could maybe try to look to use that as their advantage, but they need to go and get their altars back. But that's a pretty good flip there on the Sky Altar. So, but if I'm them, I want to get my home structures under control and start getting to mid now.
There is 4 minutes until arc spawns. They should be up about 4 points because, No March being a 6-point skill, Dust Up, the skill that 2079 used, is a 2-point skill. The Sky Altar flip kind of saves them a little bit, but not that much. They're able to capture the Shrine of War. It looks like their Shrine of Life is still under contention. I don't know if first occupation was scored here or not. Let's see once this Shrine of Life flips if it'll be 3 minutes, which means first occupation was not taken, or 2 minutes, which means first occupation was taken. But overall, WIB up, but already by 4.4k points, Dirty Dan. 47 minutes into the game. This is an absolutely dominant opening from them.
Very dominant. I think when you factor in the provisionings that WIB looks to do that 2079 doesn't do, that is another pretty big thing to keep an eye on there. Yeah, they really gonna have to get this thing going, 2079, and get some momentum on their side, or this match is gonna start to get really out of hand really quickly.
Do you think this could be a potential, like, if you're 2079, what is the game plan in your head? Like, what is the way back into this game? They're starting to... They can't even take back their altars right now, actually, with what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, I mean, if we're in a realm where No March isn't a thing, like, maybe you can just say, hey, we need to go get the arc so we can we can regain the tempo of this thing a little bit, right? Because we always say that whoever controls the arc you're going to be able to dictate the pace of the match a little bit better. But because of No March and the point multiplier that you're getting, it's just, I don't see that as being a way out. They have to go in and really stabilize their home structures before even thinking about middle.
Well, they stabilized the Desert Altar at least, so that's going to be one thing. But they did lose the Sky Altar in response, which I mean, it's one altar for one altar, but you definitely do not want to be losing structures. Looks like their sky altar they will also take, so finally stabilizing their structures. But Dirty Dan, this is going to be at the cost of mid control.
Yep.
They're not going to... I think WIB will have first rotation, which is going to be absolutely huge for them, especially since there's only 1 minute 20 seconds till arc spawns.
Yeah, if I'm 2079 here, I actually want to start pushing up a little bit just to maybe get some scouting going and seeing where the positioning is. I would like to see them starting to move up, because even as I kind of said, they were going to play a little bit conservative. Like, this is now where I think you need to start getting a little bit aggressive, because you're clearly on the back foot and you're letting WIB set the tempo. And especially in a setup like this, where, you know, you kind of usually do have these stare downs. Like, I think they need to press the objective here a little bit and make WIB feel a little bit uncomfortable.
This is an absolutely huge point margin. No March being that powerful, where you just pop it as the first structures unlock. They're up by about like 5.7k, 5 point, I don't know, almost 6k. This is an absolute. This is an absolutely huge. Yeah, we'll round up. While we're casting, we're allowed to round. This is an absolutely huge point differential for WIB, and with full temple control. I mean, what does 2079 do here? It looks like some of their marches are also AFK mid, but they are still pushing in. Dust up used by WIB. What skills will 2079 use? Looks like none right now for this middle attempt here.
Yeah,
it's a master strategies from 2079. Wait a minute. That's the skill they're waiting for. A master strategies in the back near the temple. Dirty Dan, what do you think of the strategy here from 2079?
I like it, and it kind of plays into what I was just saying. You need to go in and kind of like try to get this engage and make WIB feel a little bit uncomfortable, and I think this is exactly the kind of added layer that you need to that, is throwing master strategists into the fray, getting another 30 marches onto that backline, and really making this arc carrier feel uncomfortable here. As 2079 is doing a good job starting to rip down and try to get this double C here.
I will say though that the double C was able to make a lot of distance. This is a huge pull from the double C. The triple C, if you want to see double C plus Julius Caesar, just speeding through. And even though 2079 with the master strategies they were able to take down the arc carrier. They are in the middle of enemy territory, no reinforcements in sight. Though a good attempt, I think this will still go to WIB, which is going to be absolutely detrimental to them, because they gave up their point advantage for this play.
Yeah, this is when you do something like this, you gotta really make it have an effect. I think maybe here, maybe a little bit of a better approach might have been like a sneaky tactics with some marches to maybe think that they didn't have much in the middle and kind of get WIB a little bit more out of position and then use your master strategist. But I do think overall it was a good play from 2079. You know, as they really did kind of need to get this arc. But yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like it's still going to be in the control of WIB here, which is just going to start growing this lead, which is getting a little bit insurmountable now, potentially.
This is an absolutely huge win for WIB. Getting that first arc, 2079 just didn't have the open field support to really make that play work. And the thing about Master Strategist, it's such a home run play where you need to make sure that it works out, or else you're going to be down 6 points, and WIB just able to take advantage, able to take control. What did they get? What did 2079 get in response? They were able to get the Sky Altar, but the Sky Altar will flip. In all honesty, it feels like WIB are omnipresent, while 2079, they are stuck at their cities.
100%. And I would even go on a limb and say that there's probably going to be another no march coming relatively soon. I'm not sure on the cooldown here. I think they might have to use a time warp, but if they're close enough to the cooldown, they might just let it go and run. But we should be seeing another no march coming in from WIB as well, which is again not being too great for 2079, especially since they're not going to have a no march on their own to kind of mirror and counteract some of those buffs that WIB is going to get a hold of.
Yeah, like no march, the use of the 6 points for no march from WIB, in contrast to the use of master strategies by 2079, you can see like it's such a home run play, especially for Arc, because WIB were able to get this 6k lead from the no march that they used in the beginning of the game, and 2079 in response and with their 6 points, they lost 2 altars in the top side of their map, so it's looking very, very dire for 2079. What do you think is the play for them now, Dirty Dan?
I mean, I think that they're gonna have to obviously get the home structures, and I think they are gonna have to play around that timing of the next no march. Like potentially when this next no march comes out, they might have to go into like a full defensive shell in a way, especially with how, like you said, omnipresent WIB is kind of playing out right now. So when that next no march comes into play, I think they're gonna have to do everything that they can and just go on a full defensive, and then they have to look to get the next middle.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge... If there's going to be an Osiris League comeback, again, you have to remember, both these teams are playing for their Osiris League lives. If WIB lose, 2079 will be that second seed making it through. If 2079 lose, WIB will be that second seed. So this is a winner go home scenario for both these seasons. WIB definitely, took the first swing. Also took the second swing if you want to take about the arc, but
yeah,
2079, like they need to just continue with this approach and try to at least stabilize their structures and turn on the skill switch to make sure that they could get back into this game.
Yeah, and even speaking of skills too, like I'm really hoping that they have no march on their bar. I mean, they've used it in games past, so I would assume that it is there. And they might have to get crafty with some of these skills as well to really try and get back into this thing, because they are going to be generating a little bit more points than WIB is going to, since they are playing from behind. So that is one thing that is slowly going in their favor. But yeah, I'm really expecting another no march to come in relatively soon for WIB, and that's going to be the true test for 2079.
When you said generate more points, I thought you were talking in points per minute, like
as
they're down 4 altars.
More
like this is
yes.
This is getting crazy. The dominance from WIB. And if anything, like 2079, they look like a very solid team. They made it to the quarterfinals last season in the realm of Anubis. And Anubis was a pretty strong realm. They had 2377, they had 1960 last season. They had a lot of good teams. The one EA, I believe, was there as well. And I think this just shows the strength of WIB. And we were having questions as to how they would react with, the changes that they've had in their kingdom with, the tough back-to-back KVKs that we've seen them have. WIB showing that that's not going to affect their Osiris League. Hey, Rise of Kingdoms, still bet on us. We're still one of the best teams. Just absolutely showing class today.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you see out of these veteran teams, right? These I'd like to call them like legacy teams that have been around for what are we talking near 5 seasons, 6 seasons now, who are constantly in the forefront of the discussion of how deep are they going to go, because they have that ability to, and this is just like you said, it's a class act from WIB and showing why they are so consistent in these Osiris League runs.
It looks like they're going to be holding the arc. I mean, if you have 3 altars, you might as well hold the arc. What do you think went wrong from 2079 to be in this situation? Like, what happened in the opening here, Dirty Dan, if you had to look in retrospect?
I th- I think on the bottom side they played it. I think on both sides, as I'm like thinking back on it now, they over-indexed on different lanes, right? So on the bottom side, it looked like they over-indexed on the inside lane to attack the Desert Altar, and then also on the top side, they over-indexed to go and take the Sky Altar. So I guess my conservativeness comment was kind of, really defeated there, where they tried to take the offensive onto the enemy structures, and potentially, we always kind of talk about the importance of those maybe outside lanes and maybe trying to take that play on the top, but maybe the over-indexing was just the approach that they didn't need against a team that's as sound as WIB. Maybe a little bit more of a balanced approach would have yielded them some better efforts in those first opening moments. That's probably the main thing that I can think of there. And then obviously the skill usage too, right? They lost a lot of value out of that master strategist. And then even using the dust up a little bit early to try to combat the no march was a little bit curious. Yeah, so I think just on that opening was just a little bit, too one-sided to different lanes, as we see another kind of dust up coming up there from 2079. So interesting strategy on skill usage from them as well.
And it looks like they use dust up off rotation. Like as soon as dust up's ready, it's like, all right, we got to use dust up.
Yeah,
and it just hasn't been successful for them so far. Like when you use these skills, especially when your opponents don't respond, you would assume that you'd be advantaged in the open field. But I just feel like WIB has been strong arming 2079 this whole game. In a straight up 1v1 against these two teams, WIB has proven to me that they are the stronger team thus far. And I think with all of the things that you said, with all of the strategies and all of the things that went wrong, if 2079 played this standard in the beginning, I still feel like the result would not be as lopsided as it is now. But I still think the end result with WIB being in the lead would still be the reality.
I like to think so, yeah, especially, considering that they went in and showed a little bit more on the rotation game and kind of getting to mid. And I'm going to be looking at this as well too, because as I said it, I mean, it's been a little bit of a while now, so I would assume that no march is going to be coming in from WIB any moment now, and then they're probably going to stack that with a time warp once that one no march is done. So again, like 2079, just using that dust up as soon as that cooldown is over and not really waiting for that other no march to come in to potentially counter it. So again, we don't know how many skill points are on the board for them right now, but still, I think the skill usage here, especially as we're approaching the mid game, I would like to see a little bit better from 2079.
We are indeed approaching the mid game. Halfway through the game, WIB have double the points of 2079. That's without them capturing the Arc. So this is going to be... They have double the points. This is essentially an 11k point lead because the Arc gives 3k. Man, WIB looking very, very strong. This game is looking pretty lopsided. How far do you think WIB, how far do you think they could go in this realm of Horus that they're in? There's some pretty strong teams in here. I believe GV77 as well as 960 are in this realm. We saw 75 DC, the very close game that those two had. This realm of Horus is shaking up, especially this Group A. The two people that are potentially getting out of this group, WIB, 75 DC, looking to be very, very strong contenders going into the knockout stage.
Yeah, I think we will probably see a pretty deep run from WIB here, and especially if this performance is indicative of anything, that we should see that. And I'm really excited to see as we get into those closing rounds, right? Because this is the first Osiris League where we have some of these realm shifts, and teams like WIB, if I recall, I guess they were in Horus or Anubis last season. So
yeah,
again,
they were in Horus last season. Yep.
Yeah, so you're seeing a lot of teams that aren't familiar with each other as we get into the later stages. So the aspect of a 365 going into fight kingdoms that they're not used to, like 2377 potentially down the road, is going to be really, really fun to watch. And just one thing I want to call out to, as last week, WIB threw out provisioners, as we saw a provisioner score from them last week. 2079 is not responding with any provisioners, so we have to keep that in mind as well for WIB, is that there is going to be a little bit more points on the back end of this match from those provisioners.
So you're saying this might be a triple point sweep where the 3 ways you get points: occupation, arc, and provisions. WIB will win all 3, which is going to be pretty crazy. I mean, like, if you're from WIB at this point of the match, you have to expect that this is like practice for them, right? Yeah, this is execution for them, where, you know, if you're a gatherer here, you could practice finding the nodes, or if you're an inner outer lane, you could practice holding your structures. I will give kudos to 2079. They didn't leave. They're still fighting. But this is looking super lopsided of a game right here.
Yeah, I do like that call out of like kind of getting in some like practice reps here. You know, even for leadership too, like maybe, you know, trying some different positionings, trying some different skill usages, which is probably maybe why we haven't seen that second no march coming out from WIB. So maybe they have some skills on the board that they're going to look to get a little bit playful with, since they have this pretty comfortable lead here. But yeah, I do like that call out, that this, when you get into the states of matches like this, you definitely want to use this to, you know, hone your strategy up a little bit, and then also add that wrinkle in of maybe trying some new strategies that you have in the back pocket, that you want to look to practice on executing.
Or the backups are getting their 10k and getting legal beds. We don't know what exactly is going on for all these teams, but it is getting to that point. It's 11k. What's the best comeback you've seen in Osiris League? I feel like 11k is, I don't know if I've seen an 11k comeback before.
I don't think I have either. I think it's relatively difficult to get the comebacks a little bit within Arc. Those first 30 minutes are so vital, and I think if there was maybe one change I would like to see in Arc and Osiris League is maybe you know, the ability to come back from that stuff a little bit more easily, because again, there's such an importance on those openings, and if you fall behind there, it is really hard to climb back from. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think I've ever seen an 11k comeback, but it's not outside the realm of thinking that it's possible. I mean, these arcs are definitely in play. They can take these next 2. That would be 7k points right there. Now you're talking about relative 4k difference. If they can get a 4.
This guy just casually said, if they take the next 2 arcs, so 7.5k, that'll you know, decrease the deficit by half. Like, it'll be and then if they take another arc and then perhaps actually provision.
Yep. And then
take 4 altars.
It's not outside the realm of thinking that they can come back.
The reason why I think comebacks are so tough in Osiris League is usually people are down for a reason, right? Like, if you are down by 11k, it's not a fluke. Most of the time. Sometimes it's like a bad opening. You're down by like 6k, 5k. Then you recover, restabilize, capture that arc. I think if 2079 were to come back, or from the opening that they had where WIB had 4 altars, they would have had to have gotten that first arc, or control of that first arc, or something about that first arc. But we saw that WIB, they went towards the structures that WIB captured, and then WIB, they essentially gave WIB that initial rotation to that arc. So WIB kind of got the best of both worlds, Hannah Montana style. Just being a rock star on both occupation as well as getting that arc. So, man, it's going to be interesting. We have 5 minutes until the second arc. So let's go over the checklist again. For 2079 to come back, they need to capture 3 arcs. They need to capture 4 altars. And they need to make sure WIB doesn't provision 4k. And then maybe they'll come back.
I think on some of those, they don't have to necessarily do that in order, right? So the first thing right now for me if I'm 2079 is especially going for around 4 minutes, 5 minutes before this next arc spawns is let's stabilize. Let's get things under control. And then they have to win next arc. So that's the first thing. You know, they can get that 4 altar swing at some point later on in the match. So wow. You know, they don't have to do all these things at once, but they do have to start making some moves on them.
This is a very late no march. 26 minutes left in the game. No march used. So what that indicates to me is that, talking about stabilizing, they really want to stabilize their structures. They just lost to Sky Altar about a minute and a half ago, trying to take that back. Although with like 1 HP marches, it's going to be looking pretty tough for them. They just lost their Desert Altar as well. And this is a no march team versus a team that didn't use no march. They used Dust Up in response, WIB did. And they're still losing their structures, which is, you know, kind of indicative of this game, of what's been going on, the trends that's been going on. WIB just taking control. Man, this is a 4 altar. I think WIB hurt us, the win conditions of 2079, and are trying to, you know, are like, okay, let's do that then. Let's capture 4 altars. Although they are down to 2 now, because this top side, I will say, the top side of the map for 2079 have been able to capture the Sky Altar. Not frequently, but you know, they've flipped it a couple of times here. The thing about no march as well is that instead of 2 minutes to capture the structure and start generating points, it is only 1 minute. So that is why they're about to start generating points from the Sky Altar. They're able to retake their Desert Altar. They're able to retake their own Sky Altar as well. So wait a minute, Dirty Dan.
Starting to line up a bit.
The 4 altar gambit might come to fruition here. Although I don't know if the 4 altar plus mid gambit is gonna happen. But there's some stuff coming for 2079 here.
It's going to be a little bit tough, especially, I mean, they used a no march. They're starting to get some value out of it, but their troop healths and rotations to mid are now looking to be a little bit off, potentially going in 2 minutes until next arc spawns. So we have to see how they respond here with the potential that they're not going to get to mid. I think they are going to make this play for 4 altars here. And then maybe potentially we're going to see a sneaky tactics play to try and go and harass this mid arc.
You know what I hope happens, Dirty Dan? I hope it's time warp into. Well, oh man, they need so many points for this. I don't know if they have enough points, but time warp into master strategies, into sneaky tactics. I guess would be the way. I don't even know if they have enough points for that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because when you use time warp, the next skill is free, so you could use master strategy again, and then you sneaky tactics your marches in there. I don't know. From the way that it's looking, how far away 2079 are from mid, I don't think there's gonna be any play for mid, even if it's I mean, maybe there's gonna be a master strategy. Oh, I think there's a master strategy play there, Dan. Look at how they're gathering
definitely,
here.
Definitely.
Is that a master strategy gather, perhaps?
I would have liked to see, if they're going to do this master strategy, I think the approach here is, and it looks like WIB has enough troops in the middle here that they can maybe thwart that. I would like to see a little bit of a delayed master strategy in hopes that WIB gets a little bit careless in escorting the arc carrier.
Yeah.
Because it's going to look to still even be a pretty even matchup, I think, in middle, even with the master strategist.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Perhaps, like, catch them sleeping.
Yeah.
I don't think this is 30 marches, though. This is... Oh, they are doing it, though. They're doing a sneaky tactics play on the marches that we're seeing grouped up. So, it's not a master strategy. It's a sneaky tactics. I'm curious as to where these invisible marches are going to go. We could see that from WIB's perspective. They don't... Oh, you can't... Wait. Sneaky tactics works on a rally? Wait a second.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
That is something that I personally didn't know. But they got a sneaky rally coming through.
That does help because usually at times, like if you see a rally coming in, you're going to want to hit some open field marches to generate some rage and then switch on to the rally to unload and really kind of chunk that rally down. So that is a really nice kind of, I don't know if that was intentional, but it's a nice play here to prevent the rally from losing a little bit of health before hitting this structure here and it becomes revealed.
There you go. Rally now hitting the random rally out of nowhere. And let's look at it from WIB's perspective right now. They see the rally, they don't see the marches here. So this was a surprise.
I think
they probably think that they still have it. Now 2079, the marches that were sneaky tactics now starting to swarm down this altar. I will say there's a new wrinkle that I could see some of the top teams do, where you sneaky tactics a rally with swarmers and just take a structure for free. Because the opponents don't know how many marches they should invest into defending a structure.
100%. And it is a good in conjunction with a no march where you're getting those, added buffs when attacking a structure. I do think that 2975 was hoping that WIB was going to bring that arc to the bottom side in hopes to kind of harass it and snipe that. They're probably going to look for the harassment on the arc carrier coming to bottom lane, take the desert altar, and then cash it on that desert altar that they have just taken. But WIB going a top side with that arc.
Heaven's Grace, Dirty Dan. I have not seen that skill in, I feel like, 2 seasons. But WIB just saying, hey, we need to heal our troops. We're out in the field. Let's go use Heaven's Grace to heal our open field.
Don't see it too much, and you especially don't see it on these outside lanes either. You usually see that in the middle. So for Heaven's Grace to come in on one of these on outside lanes is pretty interesting here, and it was a good defense. Good defense by WIB on that altar. It didn't go down.
You have to remind me what Heaven's Grace is. I know it heals troops, but is it a full map heal, or is it a targeted?
I believe it's just a targeted area. I will look for you and get the exact.
I thought it was the one where it heals the whole map. That's how. By the way, chat. That's how rare that skill is to be used nowadays in 2025. There was a period in time, maybe 3 years ago, where Heaven's Grace, War Drums, all those skills were used, but now it's no march, sneaky tactics, and master strategy, I guess, with these skills people are putting on the bar.
Potentially Inferno. I like the Inferno play too. Like the Inferno. When you guys casted that second match last week, it was really cool to see Inferno at play, and that thing does a lot of damage too. So like I'm very curious to see how that comes into fruition, and we did get a little bit of clarification on that skill as well on Inferno. So if the skill's already been cast and then the target dies afterwards, the damage over time will still take effect. So that is a pretty high value skill that you can take advantage of.
Yeah, that is an absolutely huge skill. I'd assume that'd be the case, because if you're taking damage over time, and then the damage over time, sad face is your march, it wouldn't be that strong of a skill. It's 6 points, Dirty Dan Inferno, which is, on par with the most expensive skills in the game. And man, it's going to be super interesting to see if more teams use that and how they use that. But we will have to see. I think 1875 will move on to the knockout stage. So if we get to see their knockout stage games and they continue to use Inferno, I don't know, man. It could get pretty spicy with how hot it gets with Inferno in the middle.
100%. And on that pivot back to Heaven's Grace, it is all allied troops. So yes, it is pretty good skill to hit all throughout the map. So pretty good play there from WIB again to kind of counteract that sneaky tactics approach onto their home desert altar to hold that off.
I'm surprised they even had Heaven's Grace on the bar. The Heaven's Grace was kind of countered when they changed Bog Down as a skill. because Bogdown used to be unusable, where Bogdown was just slowing March speed, but now Bogdown actually has some fighting practicality, especially to counter Heaven's Grace with its 50% reduction to healing.
Yep.
So I mean, it'll be interesting to see if WIB continue to use Heaven's Grace. But I will say, WIB from the first game we watched them compared to now has definitely changed their play style a little bit. Where if you watched WIB versus 75 DC, WIB pretty much went mid the whole game, captured all the arcs except for that last one where they weren't able to cash it in, and they ended up losing the game. And they actually didn't have any of the new skills on their bar, I believe. They didn't have No March. They didn't have Time Warp. So with 2 weeks under their belts of practice, of theory crafting, WIB using No March, seeing how strong it is, seeing how if you ever want to go building game, you need No March on your bar, and that's why all of the top teams have been having it thus far this season.
Yeah, I think even too, if you're not really necessarily trying to go super building focused, I think it's still worth having on the bar just to purely counteract, because the thing for me that gets me with No March is that extra point generation as well.
Yeah.
And if you do fall behind, you kind of want to try to counteract that a little bit, and also for some of the defensive prowess that it has. And as I'm looking here too, WIB not using Heaven's Grace last week in their match, so that is a new little wrinkle that they decided to bring out, potentially swapping out to the death, which they used as well, because we've seen all the other skills being used: energetic, dust up, No March. They had Bogdown on the bar last week, as well as Time Warp. So we haven't seen the Bogdown or Time Warp. Maybe we'll see if those are on the bar, or if they're going to look to hide those skills to prevent any potential scouting. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, WIB is the only team that we've casted twice, I believe, thus far in the group stage. And from the first game to this game, I think it just shows the strength and the kind of the evolution of the team, where they changed up the skills. And I guess the evolution of the meta as well, where WIB just stuck to the old meta, what worked before. Now with the new skills, absolutely dominating 2079. They have the arc, they have full control, and we were talking about the 4 alter gambits with the arc control for 2079 to come back into this game. WIB kind of stealing the pages from our playbook from 2079 and saying, hey, we're just going to extend our lead even more here.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Again, like, just trying to get in some of that practice. I would assume some of those backup players are now should have entered the match, and those guys looking to get a little bit of practice here and just get themselves ready for this nice position that they're going to have going into this round of 16.
Round of 16, that should be the thing about WIB, because they lost the first game against 75 DC. Hypothetically, their opponent should be very, very strong. If they get the wrong draw, they could fight GV77, they could fight 60 GT. They could fight any of those teams in the first round here.
Yeah, these realm switch ups is another nice thing that I think Lilith has done in terms of kind of spicing up Osiris League for us. And I'm very curious to see some of these big legacy teams start to duke it out in these later rounds.
Yeah, it'll be super, super interesting. WIB. I mean, we were talking about the history of WIB. They've never won, but they've always been contenders pretty much since Osiris League started, from what I remember. It'll be really interesting to see how they do in this group. I mean, Dirty Dan, if you could do me a solid here, if you could go into Osiris League, see Realm of Horus, like what other teams are there in the Realm of Horus that are like that you could project that would win the group, so that we could see potential teams that WIB would have to verse in the first round?
Let's go take a look here.
I think 60 MX is also a first seed, so perhaps, I mean, I'm not gonna diss my boys in 60 MX, but that could potentially be a matchup that they would want in WIB. Although I think 60 MX would also want that matchup. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, so far point leaders obviously 60 GT in Group C GB77 with the pretty surmountable lead that they have against 689P. They're going to look to be a top seed. And then we also have 1486 and 875A from 1875 looking to be that kind of secondary team, which they have their match later at 15 UTC. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at potential matchups with some of the really big dogs that have been proven winners in Osiris League.
Man, that's gonna be super. Like, I'm curious as to the ceiling of this WIB team, because I've seen their growth from the first game to this game, and especially because of how strong all of the teams are in this Realm of Horus. I feel like even though all the teams got dispersed into the 3 realms, Realm of Horus is still a powerhouse realm, although Realm of Anubis is also really strong with 1093, JST, and the likes.
Yep.
Man,
606 over there as well, 1188.
606.
So.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams to look out for and watch in these upcoming knockout stage rounds. And I think the group stage, because of how it worked out, because of how all of the teams were kind of dispersed into all these different realms, the group stage, there have been very, very interesting games, but for the majority of the games, it's pretty predictable who would be the winner. I think the knockout stage is where we're going to see this new format shine, where it's going to be the top 16 teams. We cut off half of the teams, and it's going to be a winner go home scenario for all of these teams to make it to the promised land, to make it to the top 4 to get that skin, and hopefully top 1 to win their realm championship.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, even just looking through, I mean, even throughout all the realms, I mean, we're going to have some pretty good matchups through the likes. I mean, Realm of Bastet having, 2489, Beer, which was a team that went pretty deep in the Grand Prix, 2748. So we're going to have some really nice matchups all throughout all of these realms. And we got as casters, we definitely have our work cut out for us here.
You will have your work cut out for you for sure. Especially, I'm going to be missing 2 weeks of the playoffs, which the knockout stage, which is unfortunate. But you, Dirty Dan, and whomever they have casting, you, Dirty Dan, Brian Koo, will be holding it down here. But man, it's going to be such an interesting playoff knockout stage. Who do you have winning Realm of Horus? Do you think it's a 60 GT above all else, or do you think there's gonna be some contention with GB77 here and WIB and 75 DC?
Yeah, I mean, I'm huge on momentum and potential morale, and kind of looking at all those other in-depth factors that we don't look at on the surface. And 60 GT's just been on such a run. These last few KVKs, I think they're probably feeling a little bit of wanting to kind of put themselves back into the limelight of Osiris League. I believe, considering they lost last season to 1093 in the
grand finals,
in the grand finals. So I think for them, I think that's obviously the ultimate goal, and I think each one of these matches for them is looking to be that tune up heading into those later rounds. But yeah, I mean, momentum is just so huge in the morale. I would be remiss if I didn't put my money on 60 GT, in all honesty.
I saw a chat message asking some of the most popular rallies in Osiris League so far. I mean, the cav rally I've been seeing is Attila with Subutai. That's been the staple cav rally. We just saw, Archers, it kind of changes. We've seen Asher Bonapal with Henry, Asher Bonapal with Zhuge Liang. For infantry, what have you been seeing? I've seen CPO A with Pakal or CPA with Tariq. depending on if you
Yeah.
want anti-swarm or more damage.
Those have been the primary ones, and I like to say that I've probably been seeing more infantry rallies than usual. I think just with the benefit that you have of being able to stash a Gorgo in there. Archer rallies, I think, still having some of the most DPS, but not having a great garrison option that you can stick in with the CY, unless you have the Heraclius YSS, which you could be putting in there into that rally. But for those leadership garrisons, you really kind of need level 5 and full crit to make that equipment set really shine. But yeah, I think all the rallies that you called out, I think are pretty much those meta rallies that we've seen. It's kind of, similar to KVKs, right? You see a lot of the same in KVK than what you see in Osiris League.
Oh my Dirty Dan! Look at with 6 minutes to go. It is a zeroing party for WIB. The victory lap, the celebration of making it to the knockout stage for 5 seasons in a row, and deservedly so, with that heartbreaking loss in the beginning of their first game, losing their first game against 75 DC. Now with the redemption of making it past to the knockout stage. WIB, kudos to them, playing this to seemingly perfection this match. Just absolutely dominating. This guy's name is 1846 Babo. I don't know if they just name changed now, but pretty interesting. It's funny because some of these cities getting zeroed, they're like, as soon as their wall sad face, they just teleport out of the match. You can see that there's 16 players now for 2079, but at this point, kudos to 2079. They did play for about 50 minutes until it got out of hand here. As you can see, a lot of the cities now being forced to teleport back. Are there any cities here that are... they practically have zero power on these cities over here in 2079. I'd assume that the players that are here are still trying. No, everyone got their 10k already, so
yeah, and that's a testament to on how hard some of these players on 2079 are trying. That all of their troops are pretty much depleted enough so that WIB can kind of come in and start just freely swarming some of these accounts down. But it really is a testament to how hard 2079 was trying to fight here, both in the open field and through the reinforcement game.
we have some WIB players teleporting in. Give me my 10k, give me my 10k. For those that don't know, you get more gold heads if you get 10k contribution points in Osiris League. So everyone just making sure that they get the maximum amount of rewards. It looks like they're able to recapture this obelisk here. And although this was a stomp, I will say it wasn't, due to 2079 not trying. It was just dominance and kind of just winning everything for WIB. Like, I feel like WIB won this more than 2079 lost this game, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think it was a great effort from 2079 for sure. And, just trying some things even a little bit different, right? A little bit off kilter with that master strategy that we saw in the first mid-arc fight, and just, trying to be a little bit different and shake things up. So it's definitely not for lack of trying.
Where are these guys going with this master strategist play? WIB showing off their whole skill bar here. It looks like they had Bogdown as well. I don't know when they used Bogdown, but they got master strategist teleported like, I don't know, 10 marches over here to just say hello.
Yeah, but I think the revealing the master strategist is kind of like okay, but I think maybe I would have held on to that Bogdown a little bit, because now it's 2 consecutive weeks, and I think you can probably expect WIB to pretty consistently have Bogdown on that skill bar. So maybe I would have hidden that one, because master strategist is something that just any team can kind of go in and play around with.
Interesting, because your opponents could VOD review.
Yeah.
Are all the skills? I believe the skills they're question marks until they show up in the game. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
So that's interesting. Dirty Dan saying, "Hey, You should have saved those 2 skills for later, perhaps. Or maybe they want their opponents to think that they're taking bog down. And then next game they don't take it. Oh, this is big braining here from WIB. I don't know what's going on.
It's the mind games for sure, 100%. I mean, like all that stuff comes into play, right? We always talk about the mechanics and the strategy, but there are some of these other nuances that kind of come into play. You know, when it comes to setting yourself up for success, and which is a relatively long season. Like you are playing a lot of these matches. You are exposing yourself to being scouted and reviewed a fair amount. So there are, you know, you have to take those approaches at times, 100%.
I mean, this is, at this point, you know, this is just the Dirty Dan Plato podcast with us watching these cities getting zeroed, with WIB teleporting in, having some fun. We could see the city garrisons here. We got, is it Ditto? We got Heraclius. And we got 1 minute to go until WIB are officially crowned champions in this game. I'm curious to see, like, you know, 2079. I feel like they kind of got put into this group of death.
Yes,
with
100%.
75 DC, WIB. 75 DC though, taking the first seed. It'll be really interesting.
75 DC doing a big improvement from last year. I mean, I believe it was round of 16. They got booted because of a lackluster obelisk. I don't say lackluster obelisk play, but lackluster defense on an opening obelisk play, which knocked them out of that match like relatively quickly. And you know, just kind of coming in, reshaping their Osiris League team. And I came from 2975 for those who don't know, so I was able to kind of see some of the recruiting that they got in, and they definitely retooled and reshaped their Osiris League team kind of from top to bottom. So coming in and kind of trying to say like, hey, we've been a winner before, and we know what we can do to kind of change things up. And I do agree. I was just about to kind of lean into that too, that 2079 kind of drawing the short stick and getting into this group of death in the realm of Horus.
GG's 2079. Hopefully, you know, they will make it and continue to grow their Osiris League team. But that is their Osiris League season, as WIB from 1846 make it to the knockout stage as the second seed in Group A in the realm of Horus. That is a lot of commas. But GG's to both teams. 79k points for 1846 and WIB. 14.3k points for 2079 and I guess 2079 because their alliance name is a kingdom name. Dirty Dan, do you have any final notes of this game?
Really good job from WIB, especially with an opening match loss to 75 DC and really being able to kind of retool the way that they approach their strategy by now starting to utilize the no march and just looking clean all throughout. And can't go without saying it was an amazing effort from 2079 and going up against one of Rise of Kingdom's legacy Osiris League teams in WIB. So very, very good job from 2079. And you know, we're getting to the nitty gritty now of approaching these knockout rounds. So buckle up, everyone.
Buckle up indeed, and be sure to subscribe to this channel, the official Rise of Kingdoms channel, if you want to continue watching the postseason Osiris League playoff action, where the knockout stages will be starting next week. And we also have a match that we're casting at 15 UTC, so be sure to subscribe. If you enjoyed the casts, Dirty Dan and I's channel is in the description. Be sure to subscribe there as well, and we'll catch you guys at 15 UTC. Peace!